Welcome to Spring Quarter. Did you know that there was a caterpillar plague in 2006, leading to tens of thousands of buggers? You're listening to the Daily Brew from the Stanford Daily. This is Chloe Barreau
and Leily Rezvani. Don't worry, this week it's not about flying caterpillars, but rather walk-on athletes. Rachel Koo explains.
You've probably seen them on your way to class, zooming by, one hand on their electric bikes, green Gatorade water bottles in the other. And while they're not too hard to spot, for those of us not in sports, Stanford athletes sure are hard to understand.
They have so many obligations on top of their academics, and I think I can barely handle 12 units. So I honestly have no idea how they handle usually way more than 12 because I know that I'm on the lower end of units all the time. Oh, I really admire that.
How do they ever get enough sleep? Who would even choose this lifestyle?
Rowing is a very early morning sport because you have to get up when the water's smooth because it's really hard to row on choppy water. So I usually wake up at 5-ish.
So I definitely get up a lot earlier than I would otherwise. I wake up at 5:20, row, come back, we all eat at Stern, go to class, come back, do a little bit of work.
What time do you normally go to bed?
I'm working on getting on a more rowing appropriate schedule. 9 to 11:30, I would say, depending on the night. This week has been really rough because I'm also running for Senate, and so I've been staying up pretty late. But ideally 9:30. I think most of the girls go to bed at 9:30, 10:30.
Eva Davis and Smith Graham wake up at the crack of dawn, practice, and compete just like any other athlete on campus. Except they're part of an even smaller group of students within the athlete community known as walk-ons. Walk-on athletes aren't recruited before the admissions process, which isn't to say they didn't have the talent beforehand, but like a majority of Stanford students, went through regular admissions. Walk-ons usually come to college without any intention of playing on a varsity team. But having been athletes for various teams in high school, Davis and Graham found something lacking in college life without sports.
I was a figure skater in high school, and that was just a really, really big part of my life. I always did, for 15 years, it was school, then skating, and school, then skating. And so I never really thought of myself as a student athlete, but that just at school, everyone was oh, the skater, and that was a huge part of my identity. And then I came here, and I just kind of wasn't doing a sport because we don't have skating here. And I had some back problems where I wasn't really going to be able to compete at the same level. And so I spent a quarter sort of floating around auditioning for dance groups and doing working out at random places, and it just wasn't the same. And I kept joining more and more things to get that feeling back, and it just I don't know, they were all very similar to my academics, and so it just felt I was doing more school all the time. My boyfriend rowed for a bit. I had friends in high school who rowed. Another girl in my dorm walked onto the team, and so I just reached out to the coaches about next year, actually, and they were why don't you just start now?
People, it's just me, I was kind of done with contact. I'd already hurt my shoulder playing football, and then I ended up hurting my shoulder again last year. So now, I'm not even cleared for contact, so I was kind of out of rugby regardless of my choice. And I was well, what am I going to do? And over summer, I was doing a lot of physical therapy to rehab my shoulder, and one of the things I was doing was going on the erg on the rowing machine. And one of the people at the place, they were this is my best time over a 500 meter. I was oh, that's not that good. I can beat that time. So I was just trying to beat the time, and I got really competitive on it. And I was I think this would be a lot of fun. And I had thought about doing the rowing team before, it just been in my mind just because it is a sport that walk-ons can do well in.
Even having an athletic background, adjusting to an athlete's routine is hard work. And for walk-ons, there really isn't anything or anyone that obligates them to this commitment.
Sometimes, I'll be going to a practice, or, I'll be, in the middle of, a really tough workout, and I'll be wait, no one forced you to do this. You literally, signed up for this. What the hell?
When I wake up, and on a Thursday night, because this quarter my P-sets are all due on Friday, so on a Thursday night, if I didn't do well the week ahead and I stayed up way later than I meant to, and I wake up and I had 4 hours of sleep and it's 5 in the morning, I'm oh my gosh, I just want to go back to bed. That is the biggest doubting time for me.
There's a really high turnover rate on rowing because people get injured a lot. And so I'm not gonna expect that I'm the only person who doesn't get injured. So my guess is it'll be kind of like an on and off thing when I'm injured or not injured. Yeah, that's kind of what happened with skating, is like you technically are doing it like continuously for like years, but you're injured so much you kind of end up with these little breaks.
So why then do they continue to do it? Some people might think they're masochists, but personally, I'd like to think that walk-ons exhibit a true passion for sports. There's something especially admirable, pure even, about what walk-on athletes represent. Dedication to a sport, not for recognition or money, but just for the fun of the game.
I'm actually more productive when I do a sport. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do it. Like, I remember I got injured skating like my sophomore year, and like my grades went down a lot just because I didn't have to like plan out my life in the same way. Like, it keeps me on a really regular sleep schedule. It like helps like clear my brain. It forces me to like prioritize certain things. Definitely, I think it prevents you from having any other really large commitments. But a lot of the girls I've been surprised are pretty involved in other parts of campus. Like, they're in like SWIB or like Stanford Finance, or they're doing like pretty like intense clubs. So it's definitely doable. I think it's more rowing in particular, they seem a little bit more involved. Some people really thrive from having a lot of structure, and some people, I think that makes it harder for them to do their work, and for me, having the structure has really helped me. I guess I always just think about it in terms of like, well, like, would I rather be like rowing or not rowing? And like, it usually comes back to like, yeah, I'd rather be doing that.
I think from like a statistical standpoint, to play a major Division I sport at the best Division I college in America, you have to be so much better at your sport than you do academically to get an academic.
This episode was produced by Chloe Barreau, Leily Rezvani, and Rachel Koo. Signing us off is California musician LYRAH with her song Down Low.
Boy, didn't you know, you were just a distraction. Call me up and I'm laughing, saying who's this? I think you should know, it was good while it lasted. Doesn't mean I was asking for a long fix. You got it in your head, you could lock me down, but I knew I'd run away, break glass on your display. Oh, it was such a shame, the way that it all was staged. I could never play the part you crave. And keep me on the down low, keep me on the down low. Told you not to tell your friends about me, but you always want to ride a show. And keep me on the down low, keep me on the down low. Now you tell your friends that I'm messing up to someone that you don't even know. Distraction, and you were always the last thing on my mind. And now I wanna know, how did you think this would end? Oh, you know I like to spend my nights at home. You're always looking for nights you can go. You got it in your head, you could lock me down, but I knew I'd run away, break glass on your display. Oh, it was such a shame, the way that it all was staged. I could never play